Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to the show. Today I'm talking about how to go about gut healing. And I know we can go a million different directions in this conversation, but there's three main things that we should be doing for gut healing. And I think the problem is that we tend to put our focus on things that may play a part in it, but they're not the big things that are going to make the most difference. Because when we think about gut healing, if you just think about if I were to ask you, what do you think you should be doing to heal your gut, right? Most people are going to say, avoiding certain foods, right? Avoiding certain foods. People are going to mention probiotics, of course. People might mention killing the bad bugs, right? Or getting rid of pathogens or whatever. And yes, all of those have their place and all of those can be beneficial. But first of all, I'm not a huge fan of avoiding foods forever, unless it's absolutely necessary. Like, are there cases where certain people should avoid certain foods? Yes. If you have celiac, if you have hypothyroidism, then gluten is a non-negotiable. And if you have a severe allergy, obviously, but to avoid foods just because your gut doesn't like it, it's not right. It's just dealing with a symptom, right? It's not really getting to the root cause. And yeah, probiotics are helpful, but it's also not getting to the root cause, right? It's just another way to support the gut or to be a part of like a protocol, right? It's not really for ultimate healing. And then killing the bad bugs, yeah, again, we can kill the pathogens and the parasites all day, but if we're not honing in on these three areas that I'm going to talk about today, then it's really not going to do a whole lot of good. And really, you're just kind of perpetuating this environment to be a hospitable host for these things. And that's the point too, is we want to be able to create an environment that doesn't let these things proliferate, because that's the other thing I think we have to think about is when you have pathogens, when you have parasites, when you have food sensitivities, you have to think about how did these things get there in the first place? It's because we were a hospitable host, right? That they have to get in there somehow. So where we should be spending our focus, the three things I want to talk about today: addressing inflammation, regulating your nervous system, and optimizing gut motility. I'm going to go through all three of these. So starting with inflammation. Inflammation is a simple one. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is a simple one because we know, and if you're listening to this podcast, if you listen to even a couple episodes, like you are aware, you are far enough along your journey where you know what causes inflammation, right? It's certain foods, it's certain toxins, it's certain situations that cause stress. Like we know what causes inflammation, but we just don't. A lot of times we don't put it together that this is what's really affecting our gut. And there's so much research out there now that's showing that IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is not in fact caused by foods, which for years, again, I dealt with that myself. I dealt with that for years when I was a kid and just having bouts of it as an adult. When I was a kid and I was going through all the tests and going to all the doctors and all the things, it was, now granted, there was never like a gut protocol or anything like that to help me out. But one of the doctors was like, oh, you should go have, an allergy test, a test for food allergies. That's not the issue, right? The food allergies or the food sensitivities is just another symptom. So there's so much research out there now that shows that IBS is not caused from foods, right? It's from these other things we're going to talk about. It's gut motility, it's your nervous system, it's stress. That's what causes it. So addressing inflammation is one step, and it's inflammation. That was kind of my point there. I kind of went around the point, but that was my other point, was that it is inflammation, right? It is certain types of food, right? It's the processed things. It's the too much sugar. It's the toxicity with certain chemicals and heavy metals and all of these things. Like we are inundated with toxins on a daily basis. So it's how much can we control our toxic load? What can we do to limit our toxic load as much as possible? It's not about eliminating it, because you're not. It's impossible to eliminate it completely, but it's just being able to manage it and limit it
in as much as possible, right? That's addressing inflammation. And yes, if there are foods that give you trouble, there is a period of time, and I don't want it to sound like I'm never asking my clients to give up food or avoid foods, because that's not true. But the avoiding foods part is just a part of the protocol. I never, minus the situations I mentioned, the special circumstances I mentioned before, I'm never asking people to avoid foods forever. Like that defeats the purpose. Because again, the food sensitivities are a symptom. And so when we're avoiding certain foods for a certain period of time to allow the body to calm down, let the inflammatory response subside, kind of stop the stress response to allow the body to do what it needs to do to heal, then we can reintroduce those certain foods that might have caused issues in the past. And it should be, when we're healing in the right way, it should be, you can incorporate those again, no problem. So addressing inflammation is first. Next is regulating your nervous system. And, I talk about the nervous system a lot, and it's something I work with my clients on really deeply. This is something that we really hone in on. And this is a multifaceted thing here, because the nervous system, yes, we're talking about stress, right? The stress response and stress. But the thing with the nervous system is the nervous system is really what's causing all of these digestive issues, because when your nervous system is a wreck, out of control, or super wired up, your digestive system is going to follow suit, right? So, and this is where I want to kind of dive in a little bit deeper here. So I've talked about the vagus nerve before, and you can go back and listen to a couple of the episodes I've done about the nervous system. But I want to mention this. The vagus nerve, this is the longest nerve of all the cranial nerves, right? There's 12 pairs of cranial nerves total. This is the longest one. And this controls your inner nerve system, the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the control center, right? And the vagus nerve has a lot of really important jobs. There's a lot of things that your nervous system is responsible for. And the biggest thing, and we talk about this a lot on the show, is the gut brain connection. This is a two-way highway, and the vagus nerve is controlling that, right? It's the connection between the brain and the gut and the brain, they talk to each other. And so the vagus nerve directly affects so many functions of the body: your breathing, your speech, your swallowing, your blood pressure, your heartbeat, your hearing, taste, circulation, your digestive tract, your gut health, your bladder, your orgasms, your fertility. Like, there's so much that it affects. And I think we really underestimate the power of a functional vagus nerve and the power of really holding that as a part of the healing and as a part of the healing process. So your vagus nerve is so involved in digestion. So when we're leaving that out, this is like a whole part of the equation. Like, if you've ever heard of gastroparesis before, which is basically food not moving in your intestines, vagus nerve damage can lead to gastroparesis. It's literally damage in the vagus nerve, right? There's so many other research studies that show how much the vagus nerve plays in overall digestion, how your digestive system is functioning, the gut brain signal, even like how your microbiome is being activated, right? Your vagus nerve is involved in all of this. So when we're talking about nervous system, yes, first and foremost, we want to be able to manage stress. But when we're specifically talking about the vagus nerve, there's a lot of ways you can help stimulate your vagus nerve. And some of these might sound silly, might sound funny, but this is the way it is. Your vagus nerve, your vagus nerve, anything that's going to stimulate your vocal cords is going to stimulate your vagus nerve. And this helps build what's called vagal toning, right? We're getting a strong vagus nerve. So things like humming and singing and oming, right? Like in yoga, you do the om, gargling, all of these things are going to help. Breath work is really good at stimulating the vagus nerve. Exercise, meditation, getting massages, actually hugging can stimulate the vagus nerve. Splashing cold water, or like cold immersion, cold therapy, that's going to help the vagus. It's helping with nervous system regulation, right? Things like yoga. I said exercise. I think I said exercise. All of these are going to help stimulate the vagus nerve. Now, there are things that can kind of affect vagus nerve stimulation, and these are things that kind of lead to, like, how do you say it? Like, I guess I was going to say, like, I was going to make up a word, undertoning of the vagus nerve. I'll just say a weak vagus nerve. Basically, it's causing a weak vagus nerve. And so I mentioned as an example earlier, gastroparesis, things like that, digestive issues. And I would include IBS in the same thing. And there is a growing amount of research and evidence that shows that weak vagal toning is leads to things like IBS. So the things that are going to affect vagus nerve stimulation are things like, hello, stress, anxiety, smoking, lack of exercise, overworking, right? Overworking over still it's over stress, it's considered the same thing. Lack of sleep. Sleep's a good thing to help with your vagus nerve. Alcohol, improper nutrition, all of these things are going to affect your vagus nerve and it's going to affect how it's functioning. It's going to lead to dysfunction, which can lead to things in your health like anxiety, obesity, depression, diabetes, digestive disorders like IBS, which I've mentioned 5 times now, chronic inflammation, an impaired immune system, kidney malfunction, infertility. And I will say with the impaired immune system, there's a lot of research now, growing amount of research that's showing the connection between weak vagal toning and an impaired immune system leading to autoimmune disorders. And I don't have the numbers in front of me here, but you can look at some of the studies that are showing like exactly the percentage of people, I say exactly, based on the studies, of course, that have an autoimmune disorder, autoimmune disease, and linking that to weak vagal toning. So there is a growing amount of evidence that is showing the connection between the immune system, your inflammation, your digestion, all of that with the vagus nerve. And I think it's important to mention because this is a huge part of digestion and this is a huge part of healing your gut is being able to build a stronger vagus nerve, vagal toning, right? It's critical to overall digestion and motility, which we're going to talk about in a second. And it's really crucial to the nervous system. So don't leave that part out of the nervous system regulation or just the process or the practice of regulating your nervous system. Well, mindfulness practices, I will always 100% recommend those. And that's a huge piece. But these vagal toning things are really important for that too. So that's the second one. The third one is optimizing gut motility. So when we're talking about motility, we are talking about, yes, things moving. So if you want to say constipation, then say constipation. But gut motility, just you want to keep things moving. We don't want things just sitting there. We want things to move, to be mobile. We want motility. So there's some things, and I know we've talked a little bit about constipation here, but I want to just kind of hone in specifically on this piece. There's for some things you can do to help with gut motility. Now, let me say this first and foremost, as you know, I'm going to. Treating the underlying condition is going to be key. So this is the number one way that you're going to increase motility, gut motility. It's not going to happen on its own. There's always a reason for it. So we got to find the reason. We got to fix the issue. And that's going to help. But all of these practices I'm going to talk about, this can be done in conjunction with the whole getting to the root cause thing as we're because sometimes too, I find with some of my clients that are dealing with like pretty severe constipation, gut motility issues, you almost have to retrain your body, especially if you've been used to taking laxatives or like smooth move tea, which a lot of doctors will tell you to do. Like your gut almost forgets how to do its job. So we have to retrain it almost. And so some of these things can be helpful. So first, a lot of studies will say fasting. I don't like the word fasting because I think it leaves room for interpretation of like intermittent fasting, which I'm not a huge fan of, as you know, if you listen to this. But fasting in terms of like, we have to give ourselves space in between meals. That's the only way that it's called the migrating motor complex. This is what gets activated to digest our food and keep things moving. It's the only way for it to move is if you leave at least, ideally it's 3 to 4 hours, at least 90 to 120 minutes is what the kind of recommended amount is, but leaving at least 3 or 4 hours in between meals. So in other words, now, while I am a fan in some cases of kind of snacking periodically, you don't want to be snacking all day. You don't want to be eating every 2 hours or, snacking off and on the whole day. You want to give your body time to actually digest the food. The migrating motor complex has to be activated. Its job really is to kind of clean house. Like you want it to do its job and start breaking things down. And our bodies need time for it to do that. So giving yourself enough space in between meals. Now, again, I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting, so I'm not saying go, 16 hours or whatever, but giving space. And then I do think kind of that overnight fast, because that is a fast, giving yourself a good 10, 12 hours in between dinner and breakfast the next day is a good way to do it too. And you're giving that migrating motor complex time to do its job. So that's first. Smaller meals can help too. So a lot of experts will say, 4 to 6 smaller meals is going to help increase motility. And it's really kind of just based on the average time the stomach's going to empty. And the average time the stomach empties is about 1 to 4 calories per minute. But again, if you're if you're sticking to that 90 to 120 minute rule, like fast in between meals, like I just mentioned, then really you're doing it fine, right? You're eating 4 to 6 small meals. And so that really does the trick for you. Those two kind of go together. Now, the next one is fixing hormonal problems. Now, let me say this. Restricting calories too much can lead to hormonal problems. That might go without saying, but I feel like I should say it. Restricting calories too much can lead to hormonal issues. And I've talked to women before, just, on Instagram, or just, women who are thinking about working together, and they're talking about their food intake and stuff. And they're talking about what they eat. Like, oh, I eat clean, I eat this and this. And then they're telling what they eat all day. And I'm like, you're eating the calorie count of a 5-year-old. No wonder your hormones are out of whack. We have to eat a substantial amount of calories for our hormones to function properly. Hormones are heavily involved in the digestive process. And the effect of different foods on gastric emptying, like how your stomach is breaking things down, is in a large part due to the hormones released from the gastrointestinal tract, from your GI tract. And it provides feedback and regulation of gastric emptying. So your hormones are telling your body, your stomach, how quick to empty, right? How quickly to break things down. And I think that's important to note here. I want to talk through some of these because your GI hormones are crucial, right? These are we know that hormones are chemical messengers, right? That are giving signals, but your GI tract has specific hormones. They're responsible for regulation of secretion, absorption, and digestion and gut motility. So all of those hormones are working. And this is why, like I've said before, when working on hormones, and I say this all the time on social media, that your hormones are never the problem. Like when we want to balance out hormones, we never work to balance out the hormones. We have to look at other things. And our gut has so much to do with our hormones. And the gut has more endocrine cells than anywhere else in the body, any other part of the body. It's the largest endocrine organ, meaning it has to do with your hormones, right? It is the largest endocrine organ. And so there are a ton of gut hormones. There's more than 50 gut hormones and peptides synthesized and released from the GI tract, but there's 5 main ones that I want to mention here that I think are worth mentioning. First is gastrin. When it's stretched, the stomach secretes gastrin. Its function is to stimulate the release of hydrochloric acid, which is stomach acid, and pepsin for digestion. And it also stimulates stomach lining growth and motility, right? So this is the one that's helping your body know, okay, I need to release more stomach acid, hydrochloric acid, and pepsin to help digest food. And then it stimulates the stomach lining growth and motility, right? It's helping things move along. So that's gastrin. Then there's secretin. So the duodenum secretes secretin. So its function is to help regulate water and pH. And it also stimulates the pancreas to release sodium bicarbonate, which, yes, kind of like baking soda, and the liver to produce bile. All of this is part of the digestive process, right? So secretin has the effect of stimulating the pancreas to produce alkaline secretions, as well as slowing the emptying of the stomach. So it's kind of controlling how slow or quickly the stomach is emptying. Then there's cholecystokinin, right? This is another one secreted by the duodenum, and its function is to stimulate the gallbladder to release bile. It also releases digestive enzymes in the pancreas when fat is present. So it's helping with bile formation, right? And it's helping break down fat. Now, there's another one called gastric inhibitory peptide, or GIP. This is secreted from the stomach, and its function is to slow stomach churning and inhibits acid as chyme moves from the stomach to the small intestine. This is how your body's digesting food. This also stimulates insulin secretion and induces satiety. So are you satiated? This is the thing, this is the peptide that's helping you feel satiated. Like, okay, I'm full, I can stop eating. So just by these that I've mentioned so far, I've only mentioned 4. I have a couple more actually. I think I said 5, but this is more. You can see how these hormones are affecting how your body is breaking down food, how your gut is breaking down food, digesting food, and it's going to affect motility. You can see how many hormones already are affecting motility, right? So there's another one. There's a few more actually I want to mention. There's another one called motilin, and this is also secreted from the duodenum. And this is basically helping what I was talking about before, that motion that you want the body to do, the migrating motor complex. This is kind of involved in that. And its role is to help clean the intestines during regular fasting period, right? When you have that time in between meals. So this is the hormone that's helping that migrating motor complex work and kind of clean house, digest the food, get things moving so you can be prepared for the next meal. So these are the big ones. I guess that was 5, but I have 2 more I want to mention. Those are the big ones that I wanted to talk about. All of these are helping break down the food. It's helping release different enzymes to help break down the food. It's helping tell your body how to produce bile and how to break down fat, how to move things, right? Move things and clear things out. All of that is affected by hormones. Then you have 2 other hormones. These are your 2 hunger hormones. There's ghrelin and there's leptin, right? So your stomach secretes ghrelin, and it's basically, this is telling your body, like, I'm hungry, feed me. This is like the little gremlin. That's how I remember it. This is the little gremlin that lives in your stomach, and it's telling your body, like, hey, I'm hungry. It increases appetite. Then you have leptin. Your fat cells make leptin, and this is a signal for fullness. This plays a role in decreasing appetite. You want these to be working properly so that your stomach is telling you at the right time, hey, I'm hungry. And then your fat cells making leptin are saying, hey, wait, I'm full. You can stop eating now. Okay. So we have to make sure we have to work on hormonal issues, hormonal balancing while we're working on the gut. These can't be done in isolation, and we can't do one without the other. So we have to work on those and all of these are going to help with motility. Remember, they're helping your body break down food and move things out of the body. We want all of those to be working optimally. And so in order to optimize how these hormones are working, when we're healing the gut, we're working on things like I've just mentioned, like a handful of different body parts, different organs, right, involved. So we want to make sure we're working on the pancreas and the intestines, like your colon, like all of these different parts, right? We want to make sure your gallbladder, all of these are working together. We want to make sure all of these are working optimally for motility. And that's why, just giving the recommendation, or not the recommendation, the advice, like, hey, just eat more fiber. Like it doesn't, is so much more complex than that, right? There's so many other parts involved. So that was hormones. I have a few other ones I want to mention about motility. So first, there's another thing that you can do. And I will say as a disclaimer to this one, this isn't something I want you to do long-term, because this isn't going to actually fix the problem. This is just support while we're getting to the root of the problem, the root cause. Is something called a prokinetic, which basically helps stimulate motility, gastromotility. And so these are things like ginger, magnesium. There's a really good supplement called Modal Pro that you can get. I mean, you can order it on Amazon, Modal Pro, which it has like ginger and some other things in it. But all of these things help move things in the body. So when you are dealing with when you're dealing with constipation, you're dealing with motility issues, these are good things you can have just kind of on hand, or just have them as, sometimes we just kind of get off of our kind of regular whole foods diet and we feel a little constipated, we feel a little heavy, we feel like things aren't moving. These are good things to have just kind of in the moment to help. So remember, it's things like ginger and magnesium. It would be magnesium citrate, because kind of use it as a laxative. And then you can find Modal Pro. It's MOTIL, Modal Pro. You can just find that on Amazon, wherever you get supplements. And that's another good one. But these help get things moving. Stimulating the vagus nerve, of course, helps with motility. And I've already talked about that. Chewing your food. It sounds so simple. It sounds so silly. But you know that most of us don't chew our food well. We don't chew it enough. But this chewing your food, your digestion starts in your mouth. So all of the saliva has all these enzymes and all these things in your mouth that are breaking down your food. It starts there. So the more your teeth can grind down the food, the more you initiate the digestive process in your mouth, your stomach has less it has to do. So that means less work, which means less energy, which means less time. You're helping your digestive system out by chewing your food well. You're really supposed to chew each bite of food like 30 or 40 times before swallowing. And I'm telling you, I do not do that. So I can tell you, I'm with you if you're listening to me and you're like, what the heck? So let's all just commit to chewing our food better, taking more time to eat, eating more mindfully. That's really going to help our digestion. Here's another one. Don't drink water with your meals. Now, drinking water with your meals can dilute digestive juices and interfere with digestion. Now, I'm not saying don't drink water, and obviously water is crucial for motility and digestion, but if you can just not like guzzle down a ton of water with your meals, it does kind of mess with your digestive processes. So, taking little sips here and there, but trying not to drink a ton of water with your meal while you're eating. Movement post meal. This is another one you can do. So getting just a little walk, right? Go walk around the block, take a walk down the cul-de-sac, just a little walk, or even just sitting upright or walking around the house, doing a little bit of movement post meal. Not saying you have to go do a workout. Please don't. That could be bad. But if you can just move a little bit instead of laying down and kind of being lethargic, like, think of like the coma after Thanksgiving dinner, like move around a little bit. Just a little gentle movement can help with digestion. And it actually helps with your blood sugar. There's a lot of studies that show how much a little movement or walking after a meal can restrict your insulin spike after you eat, regardless of food. So that it is helpful. Choosing your fiber wisely and being mindful of the amount of fiber. And I think I've had an episode, I can't remember the episode, but I talked about this before in terms of increasing your fiber, because we all need fiber and we need more fiber than we think we do. But being mindful of how quickly we're increasing it and being mindful of the sources of it, and being mindful of how, like, what we eat that with, like food combining, right? And being careful that we're not putting too many like starchy things and proteins together. That's going to slow down digestion and can kind of make it sit like a rock in your gut. So being mindful of your fiber, being careful with the amount that you eat per meal. And then if you're working on increasing your fiber intake, just working your way up slowly, not putting too much fiber in too quick. So another tip, be more selective with fat and with meat. Fats and meat can slow down the digestive process. So now, yes, you can do things like using HCl, which is helping stomach acid, and taking digestive enzymes, especially before heavier meals, and that can help. But please don't think like, I'm just going to eat this really fat, heavy, crappy meal and it'll be fine because I'm going to take digest, like doing that all the time. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to do that sometimes. It's not the point, but doing that all the time, like, oh, I can eat all these fatty things and, I'm just going to take digestive enzymes and it'll be fine. But just be mindful of how often that's happening, and just be careful that with meat and fat, ideally, you're not eating that at the same time. The best way to eat in terms of like blood sugar and digestion is eating like veggies first, then eating your protein, and then eating whatever like starches and carbs right after that. And then just being mindful of the fat. The fat in the meat does slow down your digestive system. So alcohol is another one that can affect like gastric motility. So low alcohol doses, think like beer and wine, can accelerate gastric emptying, and then high alcohol concentrations like liquors and stuff, that can inhibit gastric motility. So either way, it's either too fast or too slow. So just be careful, just be mindful of that if you have digestive issues and you're working through things. And keeping those in mind, I think, is really in conjunction with the inflammation that I mentioned, regulating your nervous system and the vagus nerve, like I mentioned. These are the things we should be doing for gut healing, right? It's the nervous system, it's the motility, it's the inflammation. These are the three things we should be doing, right? It's not about avoiding all the foods. It's not about just taking a ton of probiotics, which I have an episode coming out in a few weeks about specific strains of probiotics. So I'll get to that. But it's these are the three things. These are the three things that we should be doing, and that we should be putting our efforts into these, and not stressing over eliminating all the foods and taking a ton of probiotics, right? This is where the gut healing happens. This is a process of getting to the root cause and supporting the things that helps heal the gut and sets us up for a healthy gut microbiome. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Let me know if you have questions. Of course, I love to answer questions. Shoot me a message on Instagram, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's at TheHopePedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.